Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tennyson E Stead, writer and director and founder of 8-Sided Films. And today I'd like to flip over a coin that we've discussed on previous 8-Sided blogs and talk about the other side. Anybody who's watching at Quantum Movie on Twitter, anybody who's watching our Quantum Theory feeds knows that we've just cast Angela Sauer in the leading role of Chelsea Barrington, and that's very exciting news because Angela Sauer is a magnanimous classical performer and very much a wonderkind in her own right as well, in terms of the work that she's doing both in independent film and in the theater community. She's an impeccable performer. She's bringing a lot of stuff to Quantum Theory that we haven't seen before and that we're very excited to work with. And she has great chemistry with the other actors. It's thrilling. It's a very exciting time for the film, and we're beyond excited to be bringing this new actor into the 8-Sided Players as well, because she sees problems from new angles. Her performance impulses are simultaneously spot on and precise, and also almost always from a direction that we hadn't sort of considered before. So it's thrilling. We're very excited. It wouldn't have happened unless we'd run into some problems that we didn't anticipate. So what I want to talk about today is the flip side of the coin of controlling the things we can control, because we've talked at great length about how important it is to be anticipating problems that other people regularly have on independent film. If there's problems that tend to come up on any given production, you can't tell yourself that you're going to be the lucky production that doesn't have to deal with them. You have to actually build not just plans, but mechanisms that address these problems before they come up. Dealing with risk is one of the responsibilities of a producer. We've talked at great length about that. If there's something that's in your power to control, even if you don't want to, you have to control it. However, there are some things that are either unprecedented or unpredictable. And when you hear these stories from filmmakers or from actors or performers or show people of any kind about how this crazy thing happened and everybody had to approach a problem from a new way, and all of a sudden this one defining part of a film was discovered through this occasion that on the surface seemed like misfortune. That's because that team of filmmakers is also very good at dealing with the things we can't control. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And there's really two steps to dealing with the problems you can't control. The first is to acknowledge what that, let's call it a crisis, let's say some kind of crisis hits the production, whether it's a day-long crisis, something that interrupts a day of shooting, or whether it's something that gets right to the core of what the whole production is built on, whatever the case may be. The first thing you have to do is acknowledge that it's real. You have to say, okay, this person pulled out the money, well, that money's gone. You have to acknowledge that right up front. You can't sit there and hope that, and it's almost always, these kinds of crises are almost always people-driven. Occasionally a meteor falls from the sky, but most of the time it's a decision somebody else made. And ultimately, you have to tell yourself that that decision is real, and that the consequences of that decision are real. Don't assume that there are consequences that aren't necessarily there, but if the money's gone, and you have to pay for X and Y and Z that day, you also have to acknowledge that the checks that you're writing for X and Y and Z are bouncing. You have to know that. You have to say, yes, okay, I understand that. What are we going to do about it now? So you have to engage those problems head on. Now that the thing has happened, it is no longer unpredictable, is what I'm trying to say. Now it's a thing you can control. Now that it's happened, you can control it. So now that it's there, get on it right away. Don't spend time pretending like it's not real, and don't spend time hoping that somehow it's going to be unmade by the universe. Just go forward. Say yes and go forward. Because you can't solve problems you're not acknowledging. That's the first thing. Once you've done that, it's really important at that point to let go of all the other stuff. So you've acknowledged what's real. I know my checks are going to bounce today. So we have to do things in a different way. And what opportunities does that create? You have to immediately, upon encountering this problem, find a way to open the show back up. Don't let the show close down around the problem. Don't let the problem define the show. What you have to do instead is say, all right, so now that I'm rethinking all of this, what have I missed in my previous rethinkings of all of this? Now that I'm revisiting this issue and that issue and that issue, whatever they might be, how am I going to make the show better now that we're doing essentially a new draft of those problems, whatever those problems might be? If it's a location, okay, so they double booked the location and the other show is already there and now we don't have a place to shoot. Are we going to delay the shoot or are we going to find a new place? Well, if we're finding a new place, what's the place? What can we do with this that we haven't thought to do? What can we do to use this moment now that we're reevaluating to make the show better instead of just settling for what will make the show almost as good? That's how you have to tackle every problem. It's either that or get in front of it. So there are problems you can control. There's been a lot of productions over the course of, since Athens was the center of world culture, there's been a lot of different kinds of shows. And a lot of the same problems keep coming up over those several thousand years in show business. So if you're not already solving those problems, your show's failing. You have to be solving those problems all the time. Control what you can control. When something happens that's outside of everybody's experience, for whatever reason, then you have to immediately make it part of your experience. You have to say, okay, now that this is part of the equation, it is part of the equation. Let's plug it into the equation because there's no avoiding it. And then, now that you're the show that has this problem, it's up to you to make sure that that problem does not define the show. It's up to you to make sure that you use that moment where you reevaluate the decisions that you've made that are no longer working because of the new circumstances that you have, to find a way to make the show better. And that's coming full circle. That's how we wound up with Angela Sauer and Eleanor Gunn as our leading ladies on quantum theory, and that's how we wound up with them in the 8-sided players, and we're very fortunate that they want to work with us. And at the same time, I also know that it's the fact that the rest of us got together and tackled the unforeseen circumstances that got us to this point, acknowledged right away what those unforeseen circumstances meant to the production of quantum theory, and then insisted on finding a way to use those circumstances to make the show better for the audience and better for everybody involved. And honestly, the people in our community see us do it. They see us tackle extremely difficult problems with a light heart because we know we're going to use that opportunity. We're not going to waste the time or the reevaluation that we have to go through. And in seeing that, they want to work with us. They want to be there for those moments, and they want to be there to take advantage of the fact that the things that we can control are controlled. And as a result, when we turn to our community and we say, okay, we have a new problem, we need someone to step up and help us do this, the show of hands is both bigger and more impressive because people want to be a part of that group. People want to be a part of the show where all of the stuff that could have been predicted has already been dealt with, and where the problems that are coming up and that are scary are consistently resulting in a more exciting job for everybody involved, and are consistently resulting in more fulfilling work and a better show for the audience and a stronger community. And I think that's probably exactly where we should end this blog. Thank you very much for watching. If you like these videos, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and follow other content from Eight Sided Films. We're gonna have a lot of that over the course of the next few weeks and months. We are very, very close to announcing the beginning of a crowdfunding campaign for a very abrasive and some would say controversial Hollywood satire called Making the Gamp, or Making the Great American Motion Picture. There's going to be more information about that on Eight Sided Films. We're going to have a mailing list very soon so that people can sign up, and we'll constantly be putting out the word for crowdfunding news as well as production resources that we need, and it's going to take the entire community to pull this together. One of the things that we're going to do is release the screenplay online so everyone can see what it is we're up to, everyone can see what the message is that we're sending, and everybody can see what the project is and can decide on their own whether or not it's something that needs to be done. We believe that it does. We're excited to move this forward. I'm going to spend the rest of my night on that once I get my exercises in. So that is the end of this 8-sided blog. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Take care. Bye-bye.